Hey, duders, it's your guy, Eric from Trans Talk for Men. Just wanted to let you know before the show begins that I was running a little bit late to this one, and Chris had to start the interview without me to get our guests out on time. It's a great interview, and I pop in shortly into the interview, and you'll hear me just come right out of the blue, and we'll take it from there. So, with that being said, enjoy the episode.
All right, everybody, just want to welcome James and Josie to the show.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I met these two, was it last week or was it? Oh, wow, it's only been a week here. So I met these two last week at one of Maddie's events at her pool party. You guys will remember Maddie from the last podcast episode. They were a pretty dope couple. And me and James really vibed on a lot of stuff. He's definitely one of us guys. So he's a guy that's in it with us all the way through, and then his girlfriend's here with us to share her point of view on a lot of different topics. But I guess we just help everybody get to know you a little bit. So I guess, how did you guys meet?
We actually met at one of Maddie's parties.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
she's getting a wedding invite if this actually goes that far. Is that it? Or is she going to stand in the wedding? Or
I feel like she has to be the one to officiate the wedding.
Oh well.
She was a big facilitator.
There you go.
She can plan my wedding. That would be a fun wedding.
Ooh, yeah. Water slides.
Yeah, there
Let's
would be
go.
a water slide there. Well, I have been going to Maddie's parties for just a couple months before the party that James went to, and James just found Maddie on FetLife, and Maddie told him to come.
Oh, cool.
And I knew Maddie from some work we did together at an organization up in Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like in a phase of like really being very aggressively like hitting on these guys at these parties, because it was like a space for like trans girls basically to run. I don't know, it was a very safe space. I never get that. So when I was at the parties, I was like, this is my space. Like, this is where I can do what I want. And so I met him in the kitchen and walked up to him and was like, so what are you doing here? And then we ended up hooking up that night and went on our first date like 2 days later.
No, like the next weekend.
The next
well,
weekend?
first date's relative. You spent the night at my house, and then you got breakfast.
Yeah, no,
and then you came over the next weekend with an overnight bag.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
We've pretty much been hanging out ever since.
I didn't leave my toothbrush there the first time, though.
No, it took a long time for us to get to toothbrush level.
Yeah, that's how we met. Long story short.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How long you been together?
It was closer to 8 months now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So, James, you mentioned FetLife earlier. Maddie mentioned FetLife on the last podcast, and I don't think a lot of the guys out there really know what FetLife is or how successful FetLife can be for them. Like,
Definitely.
can you just share some tips on how to just use it as best as possible?
Sure. So in terms of meeting the kind of people that you want to meet, not just in like a trans specific way, but if you have any kinks or fetishes or want to just meet like-minded people, we've used it in our relationship for poly meetups. We've also met some other cool people that we've had sex with. But so FetLife tips, what works for me best is being authentic. Got to have a profile picture that's not your dick.
Oh, geez.
Like, come on, guys.
Good.
Just be yourself. It's not Grindr. It's not Tinder. Really put some effort into creating a profile of who you are. And then what you want to do is you want to leverage, and FetLife does a great job of this. You want to leverage your connections into groups. So meet the next generation group, or meet local trans groups, and meet people in person and go to these meetings, and then just be authentic. I've met people that I've only messaged online, but I think the strength of the community comes from the events and going to the events
Mm-hmm.
and just being yourself. And it's really hard, but if you want it, you got to go get it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
he
you got it,
was
man.
he was super nervous
Oh yeah.
Yo,
because
yeah.
that was the first made up club he'd been to, and he found
Oh.
it on FetLife like a few days before
I
Mhm.
messaged Maddie because
because she's hot.
she's hot. So I messaged Maddie because she's hot, and she said, "I'm throwing this party. You should come. I think it'd be your vibe." And I
Oh.
put on my profile like I'm looking for cis women or trans women to to meet and be friends with and see where things go. So she saw that on my profile. She
Mhm.
saw pictures of me. I've been told I'm good looking. So she welcomed me to come to the party.
Okay. Cool. Wow. Actually, that's how I met Maddie. I found her on Grinder first, but it was
Okay.
I saw that she had club promoter as like her job title
Mhm.
underneath, and I was just like, "Oh, dude, like, what club do you own? Like, where can I go?
Right.
Because I work at a nightclub." I'm like, "I'd love to check out this nightclub that you own."
Mhm.
But then she was like, "Oh yeah, we'll just check out this event." Then obviously I went to my first one in June.
Cool.
But actually, the one I met you two at last week, well, that was only my second one. So I haven't been
Okay.
going to that many of her events, but that's because I have no social life. And anybody who actually listens to this podcast knows that by now. I'm usually getting pushed on by my co-host Eric to message more girls and be more aggressive. So I think I need to take a note from your girlfriend and just be more aggressive, because I'm just like, look, I'm working, I'm tired, I got other stuff to do. Like, it's at a
Absolutely.
certain point, for me sometimes it's just not a front priority for me. But
Mhm.
enough about me. Back to you two. And actually, a really good question for Josie. Since you're transitioning, what dating apps have you used? When you were looking.
All of them.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Like, which ones worked best for you?
It depends what you're looking for, I think.
Like, just for like getting dates, like just meeting up with guys, going out to dinner, getting drinks, whatever else.
Dates probably had the most luck. Yeah, like going to like a group and like meeting people in person. I have
Okay.
not really gotten good dating off of dating apps,
So it's
but a
been
lot
just
of
mostly hookups or what?
dick.
Oh wow.
But like I think that's ultimately because that's what I was there for too. Like I
Okay.
wasn't really looking to date. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to find somebody to date.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really get serious about it until a couple months before I met James. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I changed my dating profiles to say like I think I said something clever like I know this won't work, but I'm looking for someone who wants a relationship.
Mhm.
But I would still meet up with people and hook up with them.
Mm,
But
okay.
they're all pretty bad for trans
Yeah.
girls. Like,
So.
because if you put it in your profile, but you put a bunch of pictures, like if I put pictures that didn't showcase me being trans, most guys would message me without reading my profile to note that I was
Oh
trans.
yeah.
And then if you don't put it in your
Mm-hmm.
profile, and then they get upset with you or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got kicked off of Tinder, and I think it's because people were getting upset with my
Oh wow.
my being trans.
Well,
And
shame on Tinder for that. Come on, man. What's up with that?
yeah, I also was promoting a party on Tinder, and I don't think you're supposed
Oh
to do
well,
that.
then
But
yeah,
so it wasn't
not
like
without paying Tinder.
yeah. So I just like had it in my profile. I was like, hey, listen, I know this party with trans girls. If you like trans girls, let me know.
Mm.
And then people would message me to go to the parties, and I pretty much always said yes. Like I gave them the website and all that stuff. But
There were some guys that you pre-screened.
well, I pretty much everybody got to come. Like you can tell when they're chasers, right? I wasn't trying to
Sure.
have like the party filled up with chasers.
Yeah.
I want
Hey, by
nice
all
people.
means, you brought it up. You got to tell us now, what is your definition of a chaser? What is a chaser? What separates a chaser from just a regular guy, like regular dating, like potential material?
Um, do you date me because I'm trans?
No.
Not a chaser. Like I feel like if you're dating someone for the sole purpose of them being trans,
Uh-huh.
like it's okay. There's really no problem with that, but that's like the box it's in right now. Like
Okay.
if you're straight, you're straight. If
Yeah.
you're into trans girls, you're into trans girls. We don't have a word for that.
I think Maddie coined the term, I think it was transamorous or
Transamorous.
transamor, something like that.
Yeah, that works.
We usually on this podcast, we usually just say trans attracted, but I'm sure that transamorous is probably the more correct term. We just don't use correct terms here all the time.
Nobody
'Cause we're
likes
not
being
we're not
correct all the
educated. We
time.
can't read, so.
I don't know. I think ultimately it comes down to creepy
Mm-hmm.
and attracted to trans people. I mean, there's
Okay.
obviously like an appropriate way to be attracted to trans girls.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have done it correctly, but I've also had my fair share of experiences of people that are like, if they're like more curious about what's in my pants
Mm-hmm.
than anything else, like probably a chaser. Like,
So if a guy was attracted to a trans girl, knowing that you're trans, but he didn't talk about anything below the waist, it was just like, what do you do for work? What are your interests? That kind of stuff. Just a lot of those starter conversation topics. Is that like okay then, or I'm trying to figure out a way
yeah,
because a lot of the guys that listen to this podcast, some of them, well, not some, I would say probably a majority, which is just more than 50%, um, are probably singularly attracted to trans women. Like they want to date somebody who's trans, like they're attracted to that. And like they don't, for example, my co-host, Eric, he doesn't do vagina at all. He's not, he preaches against it. I think he's a little fanatical sometimes about it, but he's just like, no, that's gross. I don't like that. Nope. I like everything else. I like ass, this and that. Like I don't like vagina. Like it's gross. And but I mean, he's been with his girl for like 7 years in a monogamous relationship, not saying anything against open relationship, which we're going to talk about.
Oh,
We
okay.
will bring that up, but I just, how do guys navigate around that while still just like knowing this is what I want?
I mean, I think that ultimately self-evaluation of like how you're handling the situations.
Mm-hmm.
We know what toxic masculinity is now. Like if you're not able to like Google some stuff and learn about yourself a little bit, but like
Oh, we did a podcast on that, guys.
right.
Rewind back and listen to that episode.
So it's like if you're having a lot of girls, like you're going out and you're talking to these trans girls and they're calling you a chaser, or they're saying that you're like being inappropriate or something, like maybe analyze that.
Okay.
I think like
That
the
guy.
first time I talked to a trans person, it
Mhm.
was probably horrible for that trans person.
Mhm.
And I'm myself trans.
Mhm.
So like we all have to learn like how to talk with people. We have to learn how to flirt with people. It's no different for trans people.
Did you guys used to watch Scrubs?
I loved Scrubs.
So you're thinking of a guy like the Todd. Like that would be the
Yeah.
prototypical like chaser, like the guy that's always just
Yeah.
gross no matter what. Like you can't keep a
Right.
conversation civil without just taking it too far.
Right. And then you
Okay.
have like what was his name? JD, who
Yeah.
was like super awkward and timid.
Yeah.
And like he would have a crush on a girl and he would, I don't know, like do like sweet, nice things, try to have like conversation, like
Mm-hmm.
wasn't right about figuring out if she's got fake tits and a dick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I gotta be honest. These are things that I mean, for myself, I like boobs. Like that definitely attracts me to some people over others. It's not like a deal breaker. Like, hey, you don't have anything. You don't have anything up top. I can't talk to you. Like, the 2 trans girls that I've dated didn't have implants or anything like that. Like that wasn't a factor in any of it. But if I ruled the world and Chris can have it his way, that's what I would have.
I
I gotta
think
be
if
honest.
we attacked the systematic problem with how expensive boob jobs are for trans girls, a lot more girls would have boobs, and then you get
Yeah.
what you wanted.
Oh no, I'm with that. I'm with that. Like for universal health care, if Bernie or Elizabeth Warren put it in place, like I want all that shit to be affordable. Like
Right, that would be cool. But I think ultimately it's okay to be attracted to trans girls that are pre-op and post-op. or with fake boobs or without fake boobs. Um, but it's about like knowing why you're attracted to those things. Like
Mm.
if if you're just like running around and running after everything your dick points at, like that's toxic. That's chaser.
Yeah,
That you could be
that's a lot of dudes out there.
I mean, guys that do that to straight girls, or I'm sorry, cis
Well,
girls,
yeah,
are just as bad.
yeah, that's true.
We just don't call them chasers. We just call them assholes.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
I would say options and opportunity play a huge part in that.
yeah.
That's why you see people get rich and they kind of lose their minds and they just, you know, they slept with 16 people in a month, celebrities, athletes.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of people skew towards that, but they just don't have the opportunity to act on it. I believe. I mean, if there's a clear difference in the way that rich people act and regular people act, but
Mm,
when a lot of people become rich, they change. Like
yeah,
they go kind of buck wild. It's kind of like that.
it's inevitable.
My family's super Christian, and I got a cousin, well, a couple cousins, but you know they were raised the strictest in the whole family,
Mm-hmm.
and then they went off to college and just lost it.
Mm-hmm.
They did
Yeah.
all sorts of crazy. They was the wildest motherfuckers out there.
Yep.
Hmm.
It's kind of like that a little bit, but anyways, I'm sorry. I get hung up on the chaser conversation a lot here on this show just because
I mean, I
we do talk
bet.
about that, and the guys really want to know how can I do this without catching that label? Because
Mm-hmm.
actually, at Maddie's party, I caught that label, sort of, because I told you two about the podcast,
Uh
Mm-hmm.
huh.
and I told another trans girl at the party about the podcast, and like I was telling her, like, look, we're just trying to normalize these relationships and like get the word out and really form sort of like a community support for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
guys that are interested in trans women, so they don't feel like outcasts or alone or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, well, you know, what do you call the show? Chasers Anonymous? And I'm like,
Ouch.
okay. Like I haven't been speaking to you for longer than maybe a minute and a half at this point. But it was just I was like, okay, wow. So I mean, I guess with a lot of people you do start off from that, but it was just like, damn, man. So
Well, and also that probably comes with like a lot of baggage behind that. You know, I
yeah.
think she probably has had her fair share of chaser experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, like if you're a straight trans girl, I mean, I'm not straight. I like dating James a lot, but still don't identify as straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've had just ample experience with negative experiences with men.
Mm.
And
I think all women, cis and
yeah,
trans can
agree with that for sure.
yeah.
But
Guys, stop being despicable.
and
Mm-hmm.
Help the good ones out like me.
it's like
Sort of good
we
ones. I'm
just
not
have to
really
do
good.
the self-evaluation. Like I said, like we just got to be able to look in the mirror and be like, why does this reaction keep coming up?
Mm-hmm.
And then having a conversation, maybe candidly, if you can like develop some sort of uh like phone relationship, you know, maybe they don't even live nearby. That's like the
Mm-hmm.
nice part about the internet now. And or maybe you do go to a group and you can ask a trans girl that
Mm-hmm.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's that important to you um to not come off as a chaser, like do the work to figure out how to not come off as a chaser.
Yeah, for sure.
um but being genuinely attracted to a trans girl should be a good thing,
Yeah.
and it should be acceptable to compliment her, and like you shouldn't get labeled as a chaser just because you are trying to be a nice guy, like
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but you know
Actually,
people.
my first relationship was long distance. So it did start out with like texting,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Messenger, and then telephones and
Mm-hmm.
FaceTime. Then eventually I went to go visit her. So I mean, it definitely did.
Cool.
I've experienced that, and actually, my co-host Eric, it started that same way. He was actually in Japan, I believe, when he first started talking to his girl here in the States.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know
So
a lot
then
of trans girls that have had relationships start like that.
a lot of
I think
long
it's
distance
probably more
ones.
common because it's like a lot of the fear and anxiety of those in-person conversations
Mm-hmm.
gets dropped off because it's like someone sends you a text message with something hard, like you can take your time and like answer it appropriately. But if I ask you a really hard question to your face right now, like you might get stressed out and say something wrong. But
Oh.
like if I text you about it, like you're gonna have a moment to like, this is how I actually feel. you know?
Well, I guess I've only had good experiences with in-person dates. So, like, I mean, you typically a lot of the trans girls that I meet out there, like, and on the apps, like, actually, the one that I went on a date with here in Denver, or I dated for a little bit here in Denver, I met her on Bumble,
Yeah.
and I didn't read the profile.
Yeah.
So I read the profile like I don't know. Like I had already ordered my Lyft, and I'm like, okay, let me just do some last minute research and read the profile. And then I'm like, oh, she's trans. Okay, well I didn't know that, but I'm still gonna go and
Yeah.
just see how this turns out.
Yeah.
It turned out really well. We had a very pleasant conversation. She was a very nice young lady. But I mean, one thing I do see a lot from trans girls out there on dating apps. Even I'm on like a dating app called Trans Now. Um,
Hmm.
that's really dope. But I mean, I just see a lot of these girls, they're genuinely looking for like long-term relationships. There's a lot of sweethearts out there just looking for happiness,
I mean, I
know,
talked
which
with a
is
group of
great.
girls last night, and the general consensus was it's not really hard for us to find people to fuck us anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's 2019. We got pretty lucky coming out
Mm-hmm.
when we did, or being out right now,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you did come out. But finding someone that wants to date long term a trans girl, like there's so many more aspects to that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think guys are really scared of. I heard
Yeah.
your last podcast. I listened to it.
What were we talking
I
about?
can't remember the title of it,
Oh.
but it was the most recent one on Spotify.
Oh, we were talking about the first time ones where the guys were talking about all their different
Oh yeah,
stories. Was
that's right.
that the one? Okay.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And somebody oh shoot, now I forgot my train of thought. Nope.
No, we'll pause. We'll pause and just let Josie come up with this.
What were we talking
She's
about?
gonna reconstruct her thoughts.
What were we talking about before I said I listened to it?
Dating trans long term,
Dating
how
app.
hard it is for girls to
Oh,
find somebody to date
yes.
them.
So I was listening to your last podcast,
Uh-huh.
and y'all talked about guys going out in public with the girls and like passability and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because like if I go on a first date with a guy, you know, I generally won't look super femmy. Because I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't want to have to look like this every day to make you think this is who I am.
Yeah.
You
For
know?
sure.
I identify more like fluid than as a trans woman, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I think like that's the biggest fear that trans girls have is like their boyfriend or person they want to date being ashamed of them, like
Oh.
wanting to
Yeah.
keep that hidden from
Mm-hmm.
people, like
Oh yeah.
not coming out about it on Facebook,
Being
like not.
DL, as they
Yeah,
call it, on the down low.
right. Yeah, like that's not gonna fly
Nah,
for
that's
most
not cool,
girls.
fellas. That's not cool.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'm
we
never even gonna pretend to entertain something like that. Like
man,
it wouldn't
nah.
even happen for a
It's
moment.
it's sad to see cis and trans women accept situations that are beneath them.
Yeah,
I mean, just like that, where that's beneath you. You don't deserve to be hidden away,
Right.
So
hell no.
but yeah, I mean that's crazy. But we routinely shame all the guys who are not open about it.
Oh, I heard.
We shame everybody. So guys, be out in the open, be proud of who you're with. If that's your girl, man. Like own that shit. Be with her, be down with her 24/7. Because I'm telling you, if you ride for her, she's gonna ride for you all day. So
And I think that's like a big chaser thing too. Is
yeah,
like the
definitely,
DL stuff. That's a big
definitely,
like red flag for trans girls.
yeah,
The moment a guy
yeah.
says like, "Oh, I don't want to meet at a bar. Like, can you
Hmm.
just come over?" I'm like, yeah, we're never gonna talk again.
Yeah, right.
I can
Nah,
promise you that you will not be seeing me.
I actually make it a point to like have all of our first few dates like out in very populated public areas. Like I'm like, hey, we're going to this restaurant here, we're going to this bar over here,
Right.
like we're going to a lot of places that are frequented by a lot of people in the city. So like I usually do that routinely just so that they know right off the bat, like I'm not trying to hide. Cause yeah, you're right. A lot of dudes try to Netflix and chill right off the bat.
Yeah,
And
not
I even
necessarily like a bad thing.
had to steer us away from hanging out at her place. I'm like, oh, you want to just get some dinner at your place? Why don't we just go out?
Yeah,
And like, I like going out,
yeah.
just being in public. So yeah, I totally get that aspect of it for sure.
I love that James likes to like I'm using air quotes here, show me off.
Yeah.
You know, like but when we go out and we look nice,
Mhm.
like we're putting effort into our outfits, like I'm like happy to have him on my arm and I know he's happy to have me on his arm. And
Mhm.
like if somebody was like, "Who's that?" He'd be like, "That's my girlfriend." Like and be proud as fuck to say it.
For sure.
And like that's a huge, like, awesome turn on for people. If you want to date
Mhm.
somebody, like, you gotta be right. That's gotta be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You
Definitely.
can't be expecting someone to DL.
No, not at
Bleh.
all. Well, kind of going back to what you mentioned about like since coming out or whatever, transitioning. Could you like share? Would you mind sharing your like transitioning story with all the people?
Sure. I will give you the 4-minute version.
Okay.
I'll do my best because it's a long story. But I lived in Michigan my whole life.
Uh-huh.
Hindsight 2020, I was showing signs of being trans since I was like an infant. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
wore sisters' clothes most
Mm-hmm.
of the time until I was like, um, until my mom started to catch some flack from some neighbors and stuff, and then um, she kind of figured like, yeah, we should probably stop Josie from wearing his sister's clothes all the time, and so then I went and just started hiding it from them. You know, like the moment I was, some of the earliest memories I have of are me cross dressing when my
Mm-hmm.
parents were like out walking their dog or something. I'd be like, 20 minutes, I get to be in a bra. 20 minutes, I get to be in a bra. Like, I'm taking it. Or like a skirt or something.
It's ironic. You never wear bras now.
I know, I never
What?
do wear bras. um, but then, um, as like, I got older, like it just became more and more shameful for me. So like I hid it a lot. I would like get really upset with myself about the fact that I was doing it. And that had a huge effect on like my social life because people could tell I was not being authentic, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time connecting with people. College, I like went crazy hard closeted. Like I took a 180 from what I really am, and I like went to the gym every day and said bro all the time. And the the layers of denial were like just building and building and building. But then I also didn't live at home for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
so I was cross dressing like all the time. All of my internet personas were Josie. Actually, at that time, I was going by a different name, but it's a bad name, so I'm not gonna share
Oh,
it.
okay. That's fine. That's
um,
fine.
not my old name, but the first girl name I chose was just not acceptable for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was cross dressing like a ton in college and pretending to be, well, I was being myself online a lot. And then um, from there, after I graduated, I started dating better people. Like I got better people in my life where queer was okay. I had a like queer group of friends. They could kind of tell. I came out as bisexual when I was 23, and then I came out as gay. Kind of. I didn't really come out as gay, but I think I basically did come out as gay because it's all I focused on. But then I was like, wow, this is not it. Like, although
Mm-hmm.
I know I like these guys, like they're not doesn't doing it for me because they were treating me like a guy. They
Yeah.
were being nice.
Uh-huh.
The dates were great. I loved going to gay clubs just as much now as I did then. But being treated like not a girl was what was killing me. And
Mm-hmm.
then I finally figured it out one day and like broke down in the bathroom and like looked in the mirror and I was like, we gotta fucking do this. Like, we gotta fucking do this. Where can I do this? So I started looking up on the internet where I could transition, like, where do trans people live?
Mm-hmm.
And I was bartending and drinking too much and going way too many shows and doing way too many like party drugs. So I was like, a smaller town. So I chose Boulder. So
Okay.
then I drove around the country in my car for like 4 months. And every single day that I woke up, I was like, I'm trans. I got to do this. I'm trans. I got to do this. So that's when I moved. So I moved from Michigan to my car and then traveled around and then landed in Boulder and like almost immediately started hormones and therapy and support groups and volunteering at the community center. Um, and then, yeah, from there, it was like I just started meeting tons of trans people and hearing all of their stories and how I resonate with some of them and some of them I don't. And like I've learned new things about myself. Like I think it's funny because I've come out as um, like LGBTQ gender fluid, demisexual. Like I've come out as like so many different of the letters now.
Mm-hmm.
All the 5 basic ones, LGBTQ. I've been all of them. Yeah. Um, so that was almost 3 years ago that I started hormones now. Um, it's been the craziest 3 years
Oh
ever.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everybody has heard this before, but second puberty is really just like a crazy thing. Going through puberty in your mid 20s was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would have rather done it at 14.
oh yeah.
Just got it out of the way.
um, I mean, coming from the conservative Midwest, do you think that's something that they would have let you do? Like, would they have let you do that back then, or what?
Um, you know, a lot of my a lot of the people that I associated with back in Michigan, like
Mm-hmm.
the people I hung out with, my friends and everything, have for the most part have come out as supportive.
Mm.
But when I go back, it's not like it is here. Like
Yeah.
I can't find. There's no way there's anything like made up club, and
Oh no.
so like we're several steps behind, like say New York or LA or Portland or Seattle or something.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, every trans person knows we are several steps behind. But compared to like the rest of the country, Denver is super far ahead, like for sure. And I knew that. Like I knew the Midwest wasn't going to be the spot for me. I didn't want to have to get in a fight every time I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And for the most part here, I can avoid conflict pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So like the times I've been to Michigan before I passed was awful. It was just like felt like a zoo animal. And then after I passed, it was great because I passed enough where if you didn't know what trans people were, you had no idea if I was trans.
Mm.
So I just like blended into society, and that
Mhm.
doesn't really happen here because people are like, oh, that girl might be trans, like, and then they're like, I know what trans people look like. That girl's trans.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, if you think about it long enough, you'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But people in Michigan are fucking ignorant to it, so they're like, ignorance is bliss. For me, I was like walking around in conservative northern Michigan, like completely having a great day, like little women on the street giving me compliments. I was like,
Oh
wow,
wow.
like this is great. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, but I knew I couldn't do all of it there. I needed to get away. Plus, people here never knew me as another name other than Josie, and that made life a lot easier.
Yeah, that is definitely an issue once you transition. People using your own name.
Right.
Actually had a girl I knew from my church who transitioned. She was Sandy, and now she's Tommy. I believe it's Tommy. But she was in this group of girls, my sisters, they were all like friends. It's like 10 of them. They grew up together in the church, like they did everything together growing up. And then they all got together just last year, and not all 10 of the girls were cool with calling her Tommy.
Calling him Tommy?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I mean, that
I'm Tommy.
happens.
'Cause
Like,
I haven't seen her in, gosh, it literally, it's been like 15 years since I've seen her. Him, I'm sorry. So I mean, just when I think of,
so it's
like,
hard.
I see Tommy on
As we can
Facebook,
tell.
but these are just pictures. I don't see any of his posts really. I don't see, like, I know he had a girlfriend who had a child for a bit, so they were like a little family, and that was cool. But like, when I think of this person, I'm thinking back to the person I knew back then, because the person that I saw 15 years ago, that was, I mean, and that's something that's very common in the Black community. You have a lot of masculine lesbians, which they call studs.
Studs.
Yeah. So that's a Urban Dictionary term for you there, buddy.
Cool.
That's a new one for me too.
Yeah,
Wow.
they call them studs. So if you ever like, oh yeah, we're having you go into a stud party, it's butch, masculine, female, with lesbian. So, but we have a lot of them. Like, so in a lot of families, you have that little sister that's in a family with all brothers, and then she just ends up presenting way more masculine than everybody else because she didn't do anything but play basketball with her brothers, play video games with them, and now she's wearing, white tank tops and thugging out with them too. Like, it's just
Right, but isn't that funny? Because that doesn't go the other way.
no. The
It's like
Black
if you had
community
a
has a
bunch-
lot of contradictions and hypocrisies in what we accept.
Well,
But that
all
they
of
are
us
pretty
do.
much accepted, like even in the Black church and all that stuff. But like, being gay is started to be a lot more okay in the Black community, but as you two have seen recently with what happened in the news, uh, the black community is still very hostile towards black trans women. Like it's a,
Well, yeah.
a lot of black and being in, I'm in a lot of like black hood get Facebook groups where people just, it's a lot of griminess, it's a lot of stupidity. See a lot of really funny memes, a lot of inappropriateness. But whenever the topic of trans people come up, floodgates open for all sorts of hate. A lot of women are like bagging on these girls and they hate them because what I see a lot of times is they're like they have low self-esteem and they feel threatened and they think that, oh well, she's trans, she's going to take my man, so I have to do everything I can to remind her and everyone around that she was born male.
Right.
And they just like trumpet it so hard, and it's just like,
Well, when you layer levels of oppression,
yeah,
you
I was
know.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, black
So,
people are
like,
pretty comfortable with oppressing the LGBT community,
yeah,
which is
but
not so great.
every color of people oppresses LGBTQ people pretty
True,
equally right now.
true.
But I think like to that same degree is exactly what you said. It's like themselves more so than the trans girl
Mm-hmm.
that's getting harassed, and maybe that will change. But I think if you come out as trans, like you better just be ready.
Yeah, I mean, and
That's my
guys,
trans
if
tip
you're
101.
dating trans, like, be ready. I'm not saying you got to fight it every day to prove your love, but something will happen. Somebody's gonna do something in public, and I don't know. Your girl may be looking at you like, you gonna speak up, buddy, or what you gonna do? You gonna step up,
We
pal?
had a recent experience with that. James' first experience
Oh,
with
okay.
me being harassed on the street while he was with me.
Mm-hmm.
Not an uncommon occurrence for me generally, but
Mm-hmm.
The first time it had happened for me.
yeah, the first time that it had happened with James, and he got a little caught like deer in headlight style. Like
Mm-hmm.
was like, I can't even fucking believe that just happened. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's my life.
Well, yeah, this homeless guy was asking us for money, and we told him no, and then he made a comment about Josie's Adam's apple, which is silly because she had that like surgically removed, so he was just saying it to be mean.
Yeah.
But I was so caught off guard that someone would say something like that to someone just to be mean.
Yeah.
Right? Not even like, I mean, Josie's very passable. He was just saying it to get under our skin, or to fire a quick shot because he wasn't happy with us not giving him money. But it was just so rude and like disrespectful that I was genuinely caught off guard that someone would say that to your face.
Yeah, and I guess you're not gonna beat up a homeless guy. It's
Well,
pretty
so
fucked over enough in
in
my
hindsight, James was like, I
shit.
should have taken his phone, tossed it in the street or some shit.
I should have
'Cause he
punched
was-
him in the Adam's apple and said, "How do you like them apples?"
Yeah, right. For everybody who doesn't know, the Denver homeless population they're the most aggressive homeless population I've ever seen from any city.
Yeah.
These people, they hustle to get that money.
Yeah.
I actually bought something from a food truck. I was walking home and this dude was trying to get trying to take the food out of my hands. I'm like, bro, I didn't even start this yet. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not gonna give you my food.
It's 2019. Ask for what you want.
Touche.
They're just living it up. Hot girl summer.
Like I said before, I was raised super Christian. But, one saying that always stuck with me is you have not because you ask not. So it's like, you better speak up because closed mouths don't get fed. But
That's true.
God, it's just so much here. I used to be a nice person. I used to want to give every time I saw somebody unfortunate on the street.
Yeah.
But they're everywhere here. Like, I got hit up 3 times from leaving Walmart, the door, to like driving out the parking lot. And I'm like, you got to go get the first guy. I gave him money. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a bad person for not giving the second and third person money, but it's just like,
Yeah, it's a hard
crazy.
thing to wrap our heads around, I think.
yeah, it's nuts out
Denver's
here.
not doing so great with that.
No. So anyways, sorry for the downer topics, but just something a little bit more light. A little bit more light. One of the questions that we did want to ask you, because, you guys are in an open relationship. So, and each one of you can answer this one at a time, of course. But if you could bring any celebrity into your relationship, like who would be your one pick? Like who would be your third wheel?
Oh, celebrity.
Yep. Like who's your crush?
I,
Ultimate crush you
I don't
would
even
love
have
to
to
bring
wait.
in.
Janelle Monáe.
Really?
Hell yeah.
Janelle Monáe. Okay.
She's so hot.
That she
Oh
is.
my god.
That she
And
is.
she's so queer.
Yeah. Openly, yeah.
I got a huge crush on Janelle Monáe, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And she's got a fan. She's got a fan following, that's for sure.
If Hugh Jackman wanted to fuck my girlfriend, that'd be very. That'd make me feel really cool.
I
You
would fuck
know.
Hugh Jackman for you, baby.
Yeah, the dude's a
Oh my
stud.
God.
It'd be awesome.
We both gave answers you were not expecting.
No, I did not expect you to invite Wolverine to your bedroom. No, I just went
If you
straight
wears
Marvel.
the
Okay.
latex and-
like, well, no. Is this Hugh Jackman? Will he have to like dress up like Wolverine, or is he more like Les Mis Hugh Jackman?
Les Mis.
More of like a Les Mis.
Okay.
Yeah. Like more of
Okay.
a cultured.
Yeah, give me that.
Although he did that
slicked
movie
back
where he
hair.
was a cowboy in Australia.
Uh-huh.
That was a good Hugh Jackman look.
Okay, I could fuck a cowboy Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I think a lot of women would say the same thing.
I bet.
Hugh Jackman.
It would be a long line.
Jeez.
Yeah. But Josie and I would run a train on anyone who's hot.
We
So,
would
there
run
you
a
go.
train
Or at the same time.
on anyone that's hot. I just don't like the way that sounds.
You don't like train? No.
I mean, I'm not gonna run a train on anybody.
No, we're more into it at the same time. It's
Oh,
not a tag in, tag out situation.
Yeah.
So it's not WWE rules.
No,
Okay.
No. Yeah, James and I are pretty open. The whole celebrity thing we thought was funny because we were like, that's like so out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
But like last night we hooked up with a couple together.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, I mean, we're open in the sense where it's like we have a lot of conversations around it, and it comes up a lot for us. So it doesn't really have to be like a fake celebrity question.
Oh,
You
I
know?
know, yeah. 'cause
We
Yeah,
this
actually
is-
like hook
it
up
could
with
be
a
like-
lot of people a lot.
If
In
there
real
was
life.
12 people in front of us, we'd be like, those two.
Yeah.
Give us 20 minutes.
Oh, damn.
If
Fair
there's
enough.
3 or
8.
just that one's gonna work out.
Yeah.
That's dope. Well, Eric, I'm sorry, my co-host Eric
Mhm.
and his girlfriend Nat, they have talked about this a little bit on the show, but they're notorious for just going everywhere. What I mean by going everywhere is they do it everywhere.
Mm.
So, parents' house, vacation cabin, whatever. I know if I'm having them over to my house, I know what's gonna go. I know at least I'm mentally prepared. I know what they're doing to my house. So I just really wanted to ask you guys too, like, you guys like, I mean, where have you done it, or where won't you do it? Like, have you done it at your parents' house before,
Not
or
with James.
or a
specifically.
boyfriend's parents' house, their grandma's house? Like,
If I'm in a bedroom, there's really no person's house that I wouldn't have sex in.
oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, maybe even like if they weren't home and like it was a loft, I would still probably be down to have sex with someone. I don't know. I like exhibitionism too, so I really can't think of many places I wouldn't have sex.
really.
Limitations are, I don't really like having sex without lube.
Well, yeah.
So
What do you guys use like in a pinch? Like, if let's say if you two went on vacation and you forgot some, like in a pinch, what's your go-to?
I'm gonna give him a blowjob for like a little while and then use the spit. Wow, we changed subject matters like so intensely here.
Olive oil
Yeah.
works out well.
We did use olive oil.
use
that's
olive oil?
okay, olive oil.
I didn't like the
Yeah.
way it smelled
No,
because it smelled like ass and
just
olive
makes
oil.
yeah, it just makes me smell like even more of a dirty Italian.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, my God.
So James, one of the questions that my
Mhm.
co-host wanted to know was, is this your first like experience with anal at all? Like dating Josie, is this the first? Was she your first?
So in the nature of our relationship, and this is an interesting thing to talk about, is
Mhm.
that a lot of people assume that I'm into anal because I'm dating a trans girl.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my cis hetero girlfriends fuck me in the ass long before I met Josie, or long before I got really into trans girls. If I was to date a cis hetero woman, she would probably be on at least some level into wearing a strap on and having sex with me, or just playing with my ass.
Are you talking about my ass?
Yeah, it was more about you.
Oh,
And that's all right. You're not the
But-
first person to come on this show, first male on the show to admit or to talk about bottoming, not admit to bottoming,
But
but to
we
talk about
don't-
bottoming. But like,
We don't really actually. I don't ever really top
I've
in that way.
I've bottomed for her
Twice.
3 times.
3 times.
but is this
Since
your
we've
first time
been, like, the
topping
8 month.
anal with you dating her? Is this your first time topping, like
No.
going down that road? Like your past girlfriends have let you do that too?
I prefer vagina. So
Mm.
if I'm dating a cis girl,
Mm-hmm.
or an AFAB, someone who's like assigned female at birth,
Uh-huh.
I prefer vagina over anal.
Okay.
That being said, I lost my virginity fucking my friend Tanner. So
Oh.
yeah, I've been slaying since
In
day
the
one.
butt.
Okay, so it's not your first. All right. Damn.
It was his first.
It was his first. Yeah, his first was
Yeah.
okay. Dang. So, and it's I feel really silly for asking this. I'm saying that before I even ask.
No
this.
silly questions.
I love this question already. I already know which one it is.
Hey everybody, Eric just joined us. It's a little late to the show, but I'm glad he made it because he could really help me with this question that I was about to ask.
Hey guys, sorry it took so long for me to get here. Computer problems.
So the question we were on, Josie, James, which one of you two are bigger?
So Josie is larger.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Just by a very like small amount though.
Oh, okay. So it's still
yeah.
pretty close.
Enough to where you can tell, but enough to where I can still maintain my
Enough.
dignity.
Oh
that-
yeah.
Hey man, there's no dignity lost because your girl has a bigger dick. So
That's very true.
yeah.
And that's true, but it's fun to it's fun to talk about.
I
It's
remember
still
when we-
kind of like a man thing. I don't know, man. I fully admit to having some problematic upbringings and toxicity within my masculinity. But I mean, like that, like look, that wouldn't ruin the relationship, but I would feel a little bit better if I was the one that was bigger. I ain't gonna lie, I'd be like, yeah, that's
Maybe
fine.
it's
I'm still
different.
king.
Because he's well aware I want to chop the whole thing off anyways.
Oh, so
Okay.
Actually, I'm not even chopping it off, which was leading into the next question. you were
Yeah,
gonna
sure.
ask.
Well, actually, a follow-up question I was going to ask is, in dating, and you can just speak for yourself and some of the girls that you know, because I mean, we did a previous podcast talking about size queens and how much girls like they won't date a guy unless he's bigger than them. Like, is that something you hear a lot from a lot of girls you talk to?
Well, see, that came from real quick for me to jump in and clarify. That came from some of the porn stars on Twitter that said that. So it wasn't like it was the regular Joe girls, but it did get us thinking: is that an issue? Is that something that most girls think about? Is that a problem?
I have personally never cared much about dick size.
Mm.
I've actually never really compared, because like when you have like when you're hooking up with somebody,
Yeah.
I'm not like gonna be having a moment where I'm like, is my dick bigger than his? Like that just doesn't come up for me. I don't know. I bet I can totally understand how I can totally understand why girls would feel that way, because like you have things attached, like toxic masculinity or regular masculinity attached to your penis. Like we have things attached to the way we feel about our penis. So like I can see that if a girl was like hooking up with a guy and her dick was bigger than his, like how that would throw her off a little bit too.
Okay.
So I mean, preferences are a thing. You know, they're a
Yes,
little
they are.
toxic, but
Mhm.
if you navigate it well, like you can exist and that's fine. But I have not heard about being a thing. I'm pretty sure like trans girls are maybe the porn stars can like have their cream like pick of the crop, like
Mm-hmm.
anybody they want to date will date them. But like
Oh,
the
not
girls,
openly.
yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
thing
true.
with
Not openly. Yeah.
Tyga and Mia Isabella happened, and
Oh, I
he
didn't.
he
I don't
cheated
know
on a
that.
Kardashian with her routinely, and they were
Oh,
like apparently in love, DL, and all that stuff, and they made her sign a non-disclosure, and like
that's fucked up.
they shut her all the way up, and it was like she was just swept under the rug so that it wouldn't embarrass the Kardashian name.
Oh my
Like it was
god.
just, I'm
Which is
just
funny
saying,
because it's
like she's
already an
would be
embarrassed name.
considered a top tier girl because she's absolutely beautiful, but she still suffered the same fate as a lot of
Yeah.
non
So,
top tier girls, so to speak.
but what I was saying, like, I think if a guy shows interest in a trans girl and
Hmm.
she's looking for someone to date, or you know she's into this guy, like, I don't particularly hear about that being something girls talk about. No,
Mm.
not.
Okay.
What did you say, Eric? The regular Joe girls?
Yeah.
Did I say
Regular
that?
Joe. Yeah, you did.
When did I say that?
It was like 35 seconds ago.
Everybody
No, I
listening to the
didn't.
podcast, rewind 2 minutes and
Hey,
listen
I'm
to Eric say regular
completely
Joe girls.
I'm completely flustered because I'm so fucking late, and
Hey.
it's just like
It's all good, man. I mean, guys, we call ourselves average Joes, anyways. You know,
Right.
so I mean, it is what it is. But you did allude to something else we did want to ask you about, which was, you know, do you plan on getting SRS?
I do. Yeah, I want to get SRS.
not James.
I-
You don't plan on getting SRS?
Oh.
Well, that's who we were really asking. We were asking James. We're like, James, are you gonna get SRS? We know that you're cisgendered, but are you still gonna get SRS?
Just for shits and gigs.
Look, we're matching.
We still,
That's right,
have
that's
to,
right.
we still have to convince 2 therapists. Actually, they'd probably let you do it without a therapist note. That's the fucked up truth about it. Yeah, I really want SRS. It's, I don't know what people think the reason trans girls want their penises gone for.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like some days it's 95% of the reason is because I want to fit into a pair of yoga pants and walk around the street and not have people stare at my dick.
Oh, okay.
And then other days, 100% of the reason is because I'm super dysphoric and I can't even like think about it, and I just like want to ignore its existence. And then like there's instances like last night where I had sex with somebody and used it and loved it and like was like super amped about it. Like
Gotcha.
all of those situations come up for me, but overwhelmingly for the last 27, almost 28 years of my life, I can consistently say that I would have rather had a vagina the whole time.
Okay.
I was gonna say something about the dysphoria, but then you said you used it the other night and that you enjoyed it. So do you think that the dysphoria comes from it doesn't match what we consider women in society, or do you think the dysphoria comes from within you personally? And I don't mean to say there's one right or wrong answer to that. It can be a mixture of both, but where do you think that pressure comes from? Because dysphoria is something that's interesting to me, because my girlfriend occasionally gets it, not terribly often, but occasionally she'll be like, "Oh, I don't like my penis," and it's some sort of it's a curiosity for cis people, and I understand that it is a body image. We want our bodies to look like we have in our mind and to look like how we feel. And I'm not saying that that's wrong in any means, because I don't think that it is. It's just a question of where do you think the pull comes from? Do you think the pull is internal, or do you think the pull is external for that dysphoria? So do you think it's society saying you should have a vagina, or do you think it's you saying you should have a vagina?
I mean, that's like I feel like the same sort of question as like nature versus nurture.
In a lot of ways, it is that question of nature versus nurture, which is a difficult question to answer within and of itself.
For me, my thoughts behind it are, I most likely was influenced as a kid because you missed it earlier, but I'm one of the trans people. There's lots of different stories out there, but I have been showing signs of being trans since I was like, I mean, some of my first memories. My parents are definitely like, wow, in hindsight, this is so obvious.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of that was like when I was in those very formative years of my life, as a kid, I
Mhm.
was always associating myself as a girl in my own
Mhm.
head. And that came along with having a vagina.
Yeah.
And then I think as I got older, like now that is internal. So it's an external factor that has like
That has
influenced me to the
become
point.
a central
Yeah,
part of your character.
exactly. Same as like, our relationship styles and, if you got held enough when you were a kid, kind of a thing. Like it affects you forever. So I think for me is I don't like on a consistent basis have a lot of dysphoria around my dick, but
Mhm.
I'm always aware that if like even for a moment's thought, like the second it comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, I would rather have a vagina.
Well, and that actually, I want to lead into a slightly follow up question that has to do with SRS. And James, I want to get your view on Josie's future SRS. And on this podcast, we've talked about it before, and Chris and I have talked about it in the sense that sometimes the hardest things to talk about are the real things in life. So, like for me, my girlfriend has mentioned SRS, and I've told her that I would stand by her if she got SRS, but I know for a fact I would be less attracted to her vagina than I would be to her penis.
Hmm.
So, how do you feel about that?
Sure. So I I hooked up with a woman several years ago
Mm-hmm.
who had gone through SRS.
Okay.
It's not the same, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
Close enough for horseshoes. And
What?
Close enough for horseshoes. Yeah, it's
yeah,
only close enough only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. That's the
Right.
saying, Chris. Get on with it. Or get on with the. I don't know what I'm trying to fucking say, Chris. It's your fault.
What would that mean?
um,
Look, I was the only one sitting here right now that was like, "What the fuck is a horseshoe?" or was surprised by it. I don't know why.
I rolled
yeah.
my eyes too. He throws in these cowboy things all the time, and just
He's from Texas, everyone. He's from Texas.
so I don't.
All right.
I've heard it, and I'm from Michigan.
Oh, jeez.
So back to the question. So I don't have a preference, one way or the other. I think what we've talked about is that it's very hard to have sex in a missionary position, which is much more intimate than how we normally have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
slap that from the back.
yeah,
Oh, the doggy style is my
Right.
preferred way. I'm all about getting in as deep as I can, but that's just me.
and I mean that's typically how we have sex is I'm hit it from behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in love with Josie, and
Yeah.
I would love the experience of being able to have that like masculine feminine intimacy
Mm-hmm.
and intercourse in that dynamic. I have that with other partners
Mm-hmm.
that I sleep with, and I miss having that with my primary partner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm looking forward to the most
I see.
when she has her surgery, is that we'll be able to have sex in a much more traditional, like masculine and feminine.
I want to
Dynamic.
clarify because I think I know what you're saying. You're not saying that I'm not feminine
No.
now, and the way that we have sex is not. It's not that it can't be masculine and feminine. But what I think is what he's seeking is like that intimacy of like, I mean, honestly, like the intimacy of missionaries is not there when my legs are behind my head. Like, like if that's how we have to do
Right.
it, that's how we have to do it. But I do agree. Like, I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Is I think sex. I mean, it's just gonna feel like more connected to a part of who I am after I get surgery.
Well, certainly.
And I think
it's,
that's gonna change the way that our sex feels as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Every time I ask him, he's always super excited about it.
Hey,
I
that's.
think it's gonna be great.
That's awesome. I wasn't trying to put anybody in the hot seat, so to speak. Just a curious follow-up question that I had, but I totally understand and take your point that it is a one for you, James. It could be much more intimate sex. Looking into Josie's eyes, that kind of thing. Actually seeing your partner, having her be in a more comfortable position, as she just stated that it's not exactly the most fun when her legs are cranked all the way behind her head. Not to say that isn't fun, but
yeah,
you understand what I'm saying.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, but you
Right.
understand what I'm saying. It can be a more relaxed, more intimate moment, more of a traditional moment, and I can imagine that's very exciting for you as well, Josie, that you would have sex that confirms your gender using genitals that also confirm your gender.
Yeah.
So,
We've talked about that. The first time we have sex after her surgery, we're both just gonna cry. It's gonna be so beautiful.
I think I'll probably cry because it'll hurt so bad.
I'm not certain about the beautiful part. I'd be like, ugh. I mean, if my girlfriend cried, I'd be like, I'm gonna go take a shower. So,
Oh my god, damn.
I mean, we're pretty kinky, so we've made each other
my
cry
goodness.
Yeah, this wouldn't be the first time we've cried.
emotion. Ugh, I don't do emotion very well. So
A cis guy who doesn't do emotion really well?
yeah,
Uh-oh.
be surprised.
All three of you
Yeah.
are just blowing my mind right now.
I know, right? Anyway, so yeah, Chris, you're gonna have to keep asking the questions because I don't know where the fuck we are.
Well, I mean, just one of the last. We're getting kind of down to the wire here, but
Okay.
one of the questions we had for Josie was, what do you think, guys? I guess what do you think first timers should know about being with a trans woman? Like, what should they know ahead of time? Like, if you had a tip to give these guys, like, hey, it'd be better if you did this or prepare
Like-
for this.
As like going on a date or like
No, sex.
as like
Sexy
getting them
time.
in
Yes.
Sexy time.
Yes.
That's kind of how we do around here. It's sexy time if we can get it in there.
You want to know what's really sexy?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about boundaries and consent before sex with a trans girl, because like there's a chance that she calls her penis something else.
Mhm.
There's a chance she
Oh,
doesn't even
yeah.
want you to touch it. There's
Yeah.
a chance that she's totally fine with you going down on her.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's a lot of nuances when it comes to sex with a trans person,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't have to be like before the clothes come off, like we have a like face-to-face meeting over a cup of coffee, like what are you okay with and what are you not, but like
Do I have to
things
wear
are
a tie?
absolutely.
Okay.
But like if it's going that direction, it's like it's as simple as like asking a question from curiosity. If you're curious about something and it's making you feel awkward, like, oh, I don't know how to treat her, I don't know what it is, like the chances are she's feeling awkward too. I would say the surefire way to not fuck up with the trans girl for sexy time is to ask her like what she's into ahead of time. Just like have a conversation. It's probably good practice to do for first time sex with anybody.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. Is
But-
it's funny that we think about that with people who are transgender. We think about those sort of questions of, hey, what do you like and don't like, and yet we sort of assume that if it is with a cisgendered person that we should immediately know what this person likes and doesn't like, and that's a
Right.
ridiculous concept because everybody's
It
body
is.
is different and everybody's taste is different. So as much as I want to say, oh, that's a no-brainer, in a lot of ways it is common sense that isn't actually common because
Nah, I've never done it.
well, that's what I was just going to say. The first time I ever had sex with a woman, cisgendered woman, I should say. I've only had sex with women, but cisgendered. I didn't ask. I didn't say, hey, what do you like and what do you not like? It was almost as if though it was expected of me to know exactly how to perform properly. And
Right,
at
and then
that
they
point-
complain that you don't do it right.
Right, exactly.
And that damages our
see,
toxic
but
masculinity.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing, guys. most guys don't want to say anything to fuck it up. So the
Mhm.
less words we say, the better for us because we're still getting it. So
Yeah,
when
that's
we're
true.
headed and things are hot and heavy, you're making out, you're on your way, and then you're about to head to home base. Like, I don't want to say something and then trip myself up and I don't even make it to home base. Like,
You
I
also
just
don't
don't
want to
want
say
to.
something
Guys don't want to
stupid.
say anything stupid. They don't want to come off not
There's
cool.
ways to
They don't want to come off
say
not
it,
sexy.
but the
Like,
sexiest thing that could happen would be like,
mhm.
how do I make you come?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
But you're never gonna
Okay.
get that out of a girl by
True.
just having sex with her,
True.
because you
Mhm.
probably got to do something. For me, it's like
Yeah.
if I have sex with someone,
Mhm.
they're not gonna make me come
Mhm.
unless they are trying to make
Mhm.
me come. So like, I mean, that's just like like undoubtable fact for probably most women.
Well, that just begs the
it's-
question: are you
it's
holding out your
different.
cum? Are you just
Oh,
like
jeez.
saving it? You're just like, nope, not gonna do it until you ask.
You
can't have
gotta- That's like hot, but no, that's not what it is. Cum control.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, and then like if we're just trying to like have like I'm chatting with the bros in the locker room kind of thing, it's like how to make a trans girl like love having sex with you.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like make her feel like the woman she is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like say extra stuff that's gonna make her feel like a woman. Like compliment her curves or her hair or like her butt or I don't know. It's like it can be vain, but
Mhm.
like vanity when someone's sticking their dick inside of you is probably okay. Like
Mhm.
we want to feel attractive when we're having sex. Make her
Mhm.
feel attractive.
Mhm.
Like shit, I don't know. I don't want to say exaggerate, but like if somebody's like you're the most beautiful girl in the world while they're having sex with me, I'm like, I know, I am. Like everybody else is non-existent. Janelle Monáe is fake. Like I am the most beautiful girl in the world. And yeah, so that's what I would say.
Are there any other does anything else come to mind when you have a captive audience like we have right now? Like, are there any other things you would love for, cisgender heterosexual men to know? Like,
Honestly, like
yeah.
the whole not hiding it thing is
Mhm.
probably the most important thing. And like I hear the argument of like it's scary and it's hard and I don't want to lose friends.
Mm.
But guess who what guess who knows that really well? Trans people.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we had to do it. We didn't have a choice. Like
Uh-huh.
I couldn't be closeted when I started growing my hair out, practicing makeup and trying on dresses. Like I had to do that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And and then when I meet a guy that's like into trans girls, but you can get the sense that they want to be DL, like that's just promoting so many bad things. That's literally getting black trans women killed right now.
Yeah.
Like I think we've
Yeah.
had, of all the murders of trans people in 2019, all but one has been black trans women.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that wasn't was that mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio,
Oh.
and he shot his brother who was trans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I mean, that's why like we feel so scared. Like men are so scared to be attracted to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I walk into anywhere and I'm like all dressed up, like guys will hit on me, and then the moment they get that like sensation or an inkling or a gut feeling that I'm trans, like the whole vibe changes. They're
Mhm.
like glancing over their shoulders, is like, did anybody see me hit on this
Mhm.
girl? And it's like
Mhm.
that's so dangerous. That is so cold-hearted too.
Mm-hmm.
And denying who you are. Like I don't want anybody to be in the closet, including cis straight guys. Like everybody's bashing on y'all right now. I don't want you to suffer either. Come out of the closet as liking trans girls. Like we're fun. There's a lot of us. Like
Mhm.
there's plenty of tail out there. You just got to be vocal about it.
Mm.
Like you're never going to find a trans girl if you're to be DL with you who's happy about it.
Yeah. There you go.
Like
That's
if you
the
want
key.
your girl to be happy,
Happiness.
make her happy.
So then, why do you think that girls actually will agree to be DL with guys if they're not happy? And I agree with you that it's not a happy, healthy, or safe situation to be in. Why do you think that they will agree to do that? You hear a lot of stories about girls who do that.
I don't want to say like no girl is cool with that, because there's definitely circumstances out there I'm sure I'm unaware of where people are cool with that. But in my head, it's like I spent like from the moment I came out as bi 4 or 5 years ago, I have wanted to be in a relationship with a guy. 8 months ago was my first relationship with a guy. Like I have been searching for a very long time. And
Hmm.
when I was in the like throes of transition and like I would meet a guy on Tinder or whatever, and he'd be like, "Yeah, let's do this again." And I'm like, "Cool, let's like go grab a drink or something." He's like, I'd rather just like, keep it, at our houses or something. And like there were times I was like, "All right, fuck it." Like, sure. Like I want to have sex. And you were nice enough.
Mhm.
And like I don't need to change the world with every conversation I'm having. So it's
Hmm.
like I don't want to put words in these girls' mouths, but like it might just be like it's not making their lives worse. They're probably not feeling super great about it, but like sex is sex. Sometimes we really want it. Sometimes girls have a hard time finding it. If you're trans and you're having a dry spell, like that shit's hard to break, especially if it's like with a guy that's decent.
Mhm.
So if a decent guy comes along and everything is cool about him except for the fact that he's not out as dating trans girls, maybe you DL for a little bit.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know.
And would you try to, if you were in that situation, would you try to convince the person to stop being DL? Say you were in that situation where
You
a guy
missed
was
this
cool.
earlier.
Oh, did we talk about it?
But yeah, now and for the last like while, probably only once or twice that I ever let that slide for
Mhm.
even like one continuous person. But yeah, now it's not. I wouldn't even entertain it for a brief second. Actually, I had a kid on Instagram hit me up and wants to come to one of Maddie's parties.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to like hang out with you sometime before then." And I was like, I want to ask you a question because I had just listened to y'all's last podcast,
Oh.
and I was
okay.
like, "Would you go out to like a bar or whatever with me, like with your friends?" And he was like, I mean, I don't know. They don't know I like trans girls." And I was like, "Right? Would you tell them?" He was like, "Probably not." And I was like, "Okay." Now, like, think about how that makes me feel. Like, you
Mhm.
don't want to tell people that you're into me,
Hmm.
even though it's clear that you think I'm hot.
Mhm.
Like it's clear that you want to hang out with me,
Hmm.
but you're just so ashamed of what your friends will think. Like you're promoting that to be okay when you do that. And I
Hmm.
told him straight up, I was like 100% chance, no,
Yeah.
like
Like not happening.
100%.
No, that's a really, really shitty feeling when, yeah, they don't want to bring you around anybody else because who you are, what you are, and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Like, it's not something that you can just change on a dime. Like,
And
you
it's
are who
not
you
just
are.
trans people
So,
either. Like that can be.
no,
Think about
I've gotten it
something.
as a black male.
I
So,
was
I
about to
totally
say.
get you.
Like there's aspects about so many communities that people try to hide that they're attracted to,
Hmm.
and it's toxic for everybody. Um, and it's directly correlated to trans women getting murdered, so that's why like I think this one's kind of heavy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
understandable.
Well, I just want to obviously take another hard turn here. And, one of the questions that we had for James specifically,
Mhm.
because, when we met at the Maddie's event, we were talking about this a little bit about inclusivity within the LGBT community. Like, I guess, like, how do you feel about the level of inclusivity there is for guys who are attracted to trans women within the LGBT community, their events, all that kind of stuff? Like, because Eric and I, we talk about it and we just feel like and as I told you earlier, we don't really feel like we're a part of the community because we
Mhm.
identify as cisgender heterosexual men. So like, I don't go out to gay bars all the
Mhm.
time, but when I go out to a lot of events, I just feel like, okay, I'm just like an outsider. I'm here and I feel terrible because I don't feel like a part of the community. And I'm just trying to like,
Mhm.
I'm trying to nab that little T of the LGBT real quick and
Mhm.
dip right back on out. But
Yeah, well, it's a weird situation to ride on Chris's coattails here for just a second
Mhm.
of understanding that we are cisgendered heterosexual males and we can be allies, so we can be that A section, but at the same time we're a key component within the LGBT community.
Mhm.
And it's sort of this weird gray area. So that's, just to add that little itty bitty
Yeah,
piece.
it's very hard to navigate. Um I actually consider myself queer, and
Okay.
and I'm attracted to a lot of different people, but I come off as straight acting,
Mm-hmm.
and I would categorize my relationship with Josie as a heterosexual relationship.
No, absolutely.
Um, and it's very hard to um, it's very hard to try and explain to people that I'm dating a trans girl, but I identify as a man and they identify as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and so our relationship is a heterosexual relationship.
Yeah, a lot of people
Um,
will not understand that.
yeah, it takes a lot of, I mean, it takes a lot of just outside of the box thinking to not define heterosexuality in biological terms. Because we know couples where it's a trans masculine person dating a heterosexual woman. That person identifies masculine. The cis girl identifies as cis, and that is inherently a heterosexual relationship as well. So it's hard. I go to primarily only gay bars because the music's better.
That's
the
what I was
dancing's
just
better,
gonna say.
and
I'm like, the music's
Is
so
the
much
music
better.
that
Chris
much better?
is like,
Is it?
So much better, Chris.
They ain't playing
so
no
much
Migos
better.
in there, bro. Come on
But,
now.
much
that's
better.
true. They're not.
They're not playing the
but
top
it
40s.
just feels like such a
Top
safer
40s
space.
suck ass.
Hey,
So it feels like such a safer space for us, but then I have people coming at me like, "Oh, you're just a gay guy." And I'm like, "No, that's not actually that's actually like the furthest thing that I identify from."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to navigate. It takes a lot of maturity, I think, for people to be able to do. Coming from Texas, and a lot of the hate that gets thrown on me in my situation just comes from closed-minded, bigoted people that can't think about things in terms of that can only conceptualize things on biological terms.
Which is funny
and-
because biology doesn't even dish out just two genitals. There are intersex people.
Exactly.
And there are people
But,
with XXY or XYY, et cetera. So it's like, idiots.
Right. And yeah, I just chalk it up to them being rednecks.
Well,
and
that's
not
probably pretty
understanding.
accurate.
fair enough.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it's hard. It's very hard to try and explain that to people that like my relationship with Josie is a heterosexual relationship.
But we're both still hella queer.
Right.
Does
All right.
it matter to you, Josie, that James says that you're a trans woman, or would it bother you, or would it not bother you at all if he just says, "Oh, that's my girlfriend, that's a chick, end of story," or do you require him to say Josie is? And I don't mean require as in like you'll get mad, but is it more important for you that he say, "I am in a heterosexual relationship with a trans woman," or would you just be fine with saying I'm in a heterosexual relationship with a woman? Because with my girlfriend and I, a lot of times we we just skip that stuff and say, "Oh, that's just that's just my girlfriend. She's just a woman," and don't even go into it.
So I think I'm gonna say nuanced again. I haven't said that word in a long time. I've been using it a lot today. But in certain situations, like for instance, if I were to go and meet James' coworkers or something, like I'm assuming they're all operating under the assumption that I'm a girl.
Yeah.
That probably comes with them thinking I'm cis and that we are in a heterosexual relationship, man and woman, and I have no problems owning that identity. Like, because that is a part of who I am. Like, I am very femme identifying. I'm very femme presenting. But when we're hanging out with James and his close friends, like he'll actually say, "Oh, well, actually, Josie doesn't really identify as a woman. She's not binary." But like, I'm not gonna take that on a daily basis. I'm certainly not gonna make my boyfriend take that on a daily basis. Like, so for me, uh, there's some people that he's definitely introduced me to as like a trans person, because that that relationship with that person is to the extent where that's gonna come up. Like, we know enough about each other.
Mhm.
And then there's ones that it's clearly never going to come up. And if they're asking about me being trans, they're only curious about my dick. And neither of us are going to entertain those questions.
Mm.
So it's like, I have to trust that he's going to represent me the way that he knows me. And as far as I know, he's done a great job. I've never really been caught off guard by someone like not knowing I was trans when I was like thinking that they did, or I've had to try and pass for, like, I've been in moments where it was like I was forced to pass to like James coworkers, or people that he worked for, and then when his brother was in town, and both of those circumstances, like, I think his brother figured it out because I spent 5 days with him, and I don't hold my tongue. I'm usually pretty outwardly trans, but like his coworkers had no idea, and I was totally fine with that. I don't have to wear my identity on my sleeve. Is all I'm really trying to say. Like, just as long as they're nice to me, I'll be nice back.
It's very situational, and it depends on what level I know someone. Like,
You're right.
I think the work, like in December, so I work for an oil and gas company that's hella conservative. It's a bunch of straight white dudes who work at this firm, and we're gonna go to a Christmas party because that's what you do when you work at a place. And Josie's just gonna be my girlfriend, and
I'm
we're
gonna
be
put
cool.
on a dress and try to talk right all night and not make jokes about my dick.
Oh, no.
That's,
The alcohol may mess that up.
Yeah.
I'm
Tends to happen.
I'm surprised it's a Christmas party and not a Hanukkah party. It just strikes me as,
I know,
they'd be
I'm
so open to
flabbergasted.
these. Yeah, he a holiday party, non-denominational
There you
holiday
go.
party. That's what I
Yeah.
pulled away from that. So
Well, actually, what you kind of brought up a little bit earlier was talking about like the guy that hit you up on Instagram, talking about like would he tell his friends? And I know you probably, James, you probably have some of these conversations with some of your friends, obviously relatives too. Like, how have your friends been? Like, have you had any of your friends like really push back on this and like really not? Like, have you had any difficult friend breakups, or you're just like, well, we're cool, but he's kind of just.
Sure. No.
Can I use the bathroom again?
No, James, tell your story, man.
So no friend breakups. My best friend was the first person to catch on to it. I posted a picture of Josie and I when we had very first started dating. We had been seeing each other for about a month, and he called me up. And in the picture, Josie's to box competitively, so her shoulders were swole. She had some guns. And so I posted a picture of us, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, is this girl trans?" And I was like, "Yeah, this girl's trans." And we had a series of conversations over the next month about it. And he comes from the same place I grew up, except he was in the military, which is an even more, like, I'd say, toxic, like heteronormative environment.
I never would have guessed.
And and so he came at me with a lot of this, like, man and woman should be together, and it's not right for the situation that you're in. Going, like, referencing our conversation a couple minutes ago, I am with a woman. So this is his argument doesn't work for that, because I'm in a heterosexual relationship with a woman. And I just tried to explain to him, like, this person makes me happy more than anyone else that I've met. And I've talked to Josie, and I don't date her because she's trans. I date her because she's an awesome person. I would date her if she had a vagina. I would date her if she had a penis. The biology of it is relatively irrelevant to our relationship. We both just mesh well and have an awesome relationship. So I was able to like talk him through it. And in that process, move through a lot of my own insecurities about our relationship. My brother said something kind of hurtful to me the other day. He was originally not supportive, but not confrontational about it. And Josie and I are going to a family wedding here in a couple months. And I told him that I was planning on bringing her. And he goes, "Oh, I thought this was just a phase."
Oh.
And I was like, well,
The best goddamn phase ever.
best phase ever, first of all. Second of all, like, surprise, little bro, this is something that I've been dealing and struggling with for a long time. So Josie's the first trans person that I've been in a relationship with. But this, for my personal journey of self-discovery, this is a long time coming. So no, it's not just a phase.
Now, who the fuck says that to a person who isn't 12 years old? Like,
right?
Jeez.
That's
A
ridiculous.
28-year-old
Right.
man.
And
Are
it's
you
like,
going
hey,
through a phase, darling?
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? In your adult self, are you going through a phase? Jesus, that's ridiculous.
And I haven't told my parents that I'm dating a trans person. But there's a family that I'm really good friends with. I'd say I'm closer with this family than I am with my own family. And they came to visit Denver. And I told them that I was dating a trans person, and we hung out, and it was very important for me to introduce Josie. And I talked to them earlier today, and
Just tell him exactly what she said. It's so funny.
What
she said about my old Facebook pictures.
Oh yeah, she said that she didn't know that you were trans, but that you were a really hot guy before you transitioned. She also said that she was jealous of your tits. But ultimately, the conversation came down to, we love you. You're part of our family. You're our good friend, and we're gonna support you no matter what, whether you're gay or straight or who you're dating. We know that that's part of your identity, but that's not, at the same time, like, that's not who you are. And so very supportive. She said that if I decided to get married, we'd have some conversations with Jesus. But
I didn't hear that part.
What the fuck does that even mean?
jeez.
I will be more than happy to have a conversation with Jesus. I have two very good pastor friends who will be there for that one.
So this family is very, very Christian, very conservative, very cowboy.
What does that even mean? Have a
I totally
conversation
get
with
it,
Jesus?
Seated in deep deep-seated heteronormative
Oh yeah.
stuff. But
Red Country, Texas.
Oh boy.
but moral of the story is the people that love me, the people that really know me, are supportive of me being happy and living my best life. And right now, I can unequivocally say my life right now is better than it has ever been. I'm more comfortable with myself now than I have ever been. I think a lot of that is my awesome relationship with Josie. But I'm living my best life right now. And if people want to hate on that, then, they don't know me. They're not my friend. Who doesn't want their friends to be happy?
Shit
Or
bags.
loved ones.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was gonna
Jeez. That's crazy.
So yeah, it's shitty people. I mean, shitty people do that, and people are gonna hate on you, whether you do or don't. And it's a situation of saying, "Fuck it, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do what I need to do," and the right people will come along.
You know,
100%.
it's weird because to me, it feels like people have just started getting used to accepting a lot of their friends being gay.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, that's like, hey, I'm good. I've stretched myself personally. I can handle that now. I still love them. We're all good. But then, you come with something like this. And I'm saying that like, because I actually told my fraternity big brother the other day we were playing PlayStation, and I told him, that I've been dating trans women and all that kind of stuff. And I actually am attracted to trans women. And, he,
Who's this?
it's, well, let's just first name only. His name is, it's a guy named George, my big brother. Love him to death
yeah.
still.
We've talked about him, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't 100% like it. He just wasn't ready for it. Like it hit him, and he was just like, "Oh, okay. Well, my default reaction, because he's a military guy, is to just give you shit right now, and make some jokes. But at my heart of hearts, is just like he doesn't really know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's still working through it himself. I know at the end of the day, he does have a lot of love in his heart for me, and I'm still gonna be in his wedding because I did introduce him to his wife. Or wife to be. Remember, George, if you're listening to this, you signed up for it, not me. So, but anyways, like I've been there with you on that, just like telling your friends and the people that are closest to you. And I mean, being from conservative Wisconsin, not everybody's ready for it, and they just don't see it coming. It just hits them, blindsides them. Because I mean, you tell somebody, yeah, I'm gay, they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I have plenty of other gay friends, but they don't know anybody else that dates trans or has sex with trans women. Like, they're
To
just
the extent where I was supposed to be, I got asked to be the best man in my best friend's wedding. I came out as trans a few months later. He said that he still wanted me to be in the wedding. He had asked me to be his best man a year and a half before the wedding date.
Oh wow.
So there was some time. I came out like a few months later. He said he still wanted me to be his best person. 3 weeks before the wedding, he was taking so much pressure from the families to kick me out of the wedding that he kicked me out of the wedding.
Oh, that's some
Because
bullshit right there.
they were so upset with the fact that he would even be friends with a trans person.
So what did you? So what did you
Let
do
alone
with that
people
friend?
that date them. What was that?
What did you do with that friend after he kicked you? After he kicked you out of the wedding, what did you do with that relationship? That's what I'm curious about. It doesn't surprise me that people pressured him.
Called him the garbage that he is, and blocked him, and would absolutely refuse any contact in the future.
Jeez peasy. That's
like I wouldn't even accept an apology.
Good
like
on
I have
you.
forgiven him so that I could move on. Like that's where that one's gonna stay.
I mean, good.
There's
on
a
you
few
for
of those.
standing
I
up,
think
but
any trans
jeez.
person's gonna have like a handful of people that really exploded, and he's one of mine for sure. Yeah, that was a disappointing relationship to lose.
I definitely foresee that in my future. So
Yeah, and
That's
ultimately, like
rough.
the thing
Okay.
is too is, if they're not gonna be your friend because you're dating somebody who they just don't understand, like my friends have dated some stupid fucking people,
Yeah.
and I'm still their friend.
Mm-hmm.
And like the girl I'm specifically referring to is Molly. She has dated some seriously stupid fucking people. I love this girl to death. She dated me, and that was stupid.
Oh.
So I can say I was a shitbag when she dated me. But like
You dumb
nobody was
idiot.
getting upset with her because she was dating cis guys.
Mm-hmm.
If she went and dated a trans girl, people would lose their shit.
Mm.
You know? And it's
Yeah.
like it's ridiculous. So now when we go back and we have like a very close friend and intimate relationship. She takes more shit dating me and hanging out with me now than probably when I was a giant shitbag as a
Oh,
cis guy.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
certainly.
wow.
Because
Most
definitely.
that also, even when you were a shitbag as a cisgendered person, it plays into the narrative. It
Yeah.
plays into that heteronormative narrative that
Right.
guys are this way and girls are that way. When you upset that apple cart, when you flip things on its head, people freak the fuck out.
Mhm.
and they just don't know how to handle themselves, which is really funny because it's so not about you in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it's about you in that they will take their anger and fury, and it can be very dangerous for trans people and the people involved in that situation, but none of it's about you. It's just about them freaking out on the inside, and they have no idea how to fucking handle shit. And it's both really terrifying, tragic, and hilarious at the same time. I like how I said both, and then I gave 3 things because I count really well. Yeah.
I mean, it's never about the person that you're, making fun of. It's always about yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
I shared back when gay marriage became legal, my parents were very upset and very distraught at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious why my mother would care, because she's not gay. And I asked her, I finally got to the root of the issue one day, and I said, do you feel that your marriage is threatened or somehow diminished because now people who weren't able to get married are able to get married now? She said yes, that it somehow that it somehow took credit away from her marriage, that now anybody can get married.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Sorry to cut you off, but I like to make a joke on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to joke with this about not outwardly conservative people, but sort of inward conservative, where they'll say things like, "Oh no, I think that's right," but then they're like, "Well, I don't know," that sort of thing. And I like to, whenever, and this isn't even about trans stuff, this is about anything in general, which is when anything comes up and they go, "Well, I just don't know how I feel," like when they say like we should have an easy immigration system to allow immigrants to become citizens, and they go, "Well, I just don't know how I feel about that." And I go, I totally understand. I say, because the more freedoms I give to somebody else, the less I have. I said, that's math. I said, if I give Juan 3 of my freedoms, I now have less.
I was confused if you were being sarcastic until you said that.
Yeah,
So I was like, "Oh my god, are we having this conversation too?"
No, we're not having that conversation. But that's the joke. That's the thing is, it's somehow, if you
I'm not racist, but I'm not transphobic, but
I find a lot of middle America white people, and obviously some people of color on some different topics, but everybody's in denial about their racism, their homophobia. The sooner they acknowledge the problems that they have with certain things, the better everybody else will be. I'm not saying you got to fix it, but just say, you know what, actually, I guess I do have some issues when it comes to black people. Like, I do have some issues when it comes to Mexicans. Like, yeah, I got some problems here. I'm not saying you have to be not a racist right now, but if you have a problem with your teenage daughter dating a black guy, just roll like, look, I thought I was better than this, but I'm not.
Right.
Just denial is the first thing we got to get out the way.
Self-evaluation.
Once we get past that,
baby.
everybody, like you were talking, exactly, self-evaluation. Just get past all that, and we can have some real conversations after that point, and probably move in a better direction as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that weird thing, and that's exactly what you were talking about, James, where you asked your parents about, does this threaten your marriage? It's that weird thing of, it could not possibly threaten your marriage. It is not a tangible thing. It is not something that can be threatened or broken literally by something that has no effect on it, and yet we have these irrational fears about it. And,
well, it's because Jesus said so.
Well, that's true. And he said a lot.
That's a factor.
That's why we need to talk to Jesus.
Yeah, he
oh
also
Lord, my mom would bring the pastor to the house.
Ooh.
Like, and if I wanted to, like, if I had a trans girlfriend, I'm like, hey, we're coming home for the holidays, she would not let us stay in the house. Like, we would probably have to get a hotel, because she would not be okay with us sleeping in the same bed in her house. Like, Chris, not okay.
I have a question.
She's a Christian lady. She would lose her shit.
It happens.
I was going to say, Chris, I have a question for you. Say you brought a trans woman home to your house with your mom, and your mom was aware that the trans woman was coming to your house, and then I came to your family's house to visit. Do you think I would accidentally drink the holy water? I feel like I probably would.
No, so black people don't do holy water.
Oh, you do?
So we have what you call blessed oil,
Blessed
which is
oil.
olive oil that has been blessed and consecrated and prayed over. So before I went to school every day, my mom would take a little olive oil and put a blot right on my forehead, and she would pray a little bit and then send me on my way.
So I should
So-
avoid salads, is what you're saying, because I like olive oil and vinegar
Yeah,
on my
don't put that on you.
salads.
Well, first off, yeah,
Holy
you
salad.
and Nat can visit my mom's house. Y'all can't stay there.
Oh, okay.
You know. And these two can't either. Like none of my friends
be
that are
allowed.
dating trans girls. I'm gonna have to, if I get a house, I'm gonna have to get a guest house so y'all can make all the noise and do whatever y'all want to out there. Y'all
'Cause
just-
we'll be fucking all the
I-
time. man.
Well,
look,
I
that's
can-
that's one is a weird thing with black folks. You're like, look, y'all gotta respect my house. It's like
I
y'all
will have
fucking all
sex
over the
in
place. I
everybody's
gotta
house.
respect, like respecting my mom's house means I come home, even though I'm 36. I come home before 12.
Oh.
I don't come home too late. Like I come home at a reasonable time, and I don't disrespect her house.
That's so funny.
It's stupid, but that's just how these people. That's just how it is, man. I don't know. It's messed up out here, but
Well, that's too bad, because
I would love for all of you guys to meet my family and like be cool. And once I finally crack that egg with my mom, but to be honest, I'm not going there unless I fall in love with a girl.
Yeah.
If I'm
Right.
just dating somebody and I kind of like you, and okay, I kind of like you, but if I think you're the one, and I know I'm probably gonna want to propose, and I'm gonna start a family with this person, then I'll fight that battle. But until then, I won't, because it's, what do I get out of it? Oh yeah, I'm not dating her anymore. Okay, well, I just had this big bloody war with my mom over somebody I dated for a month.
Yeah,
Hooray.
James and I have had that conversation a couple of times about why. Well, he hasn't told his parents yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I was pretty clear with him up front. I was like, I understand that like this is new. Like I'm not gonna make you come out of the closet for someone you might date for like a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been dating for a little while now, and like I'm planning on meeting his parents. I don't know.
Now,
within the
would you
next 6
prefer he
months.
tell them before you meet them, or would you do like the Christmas work parties and just
I
try
would
that
be.
stealth thing?
Surprise!
I would
Oh,
She
be.
was in the
jeez.
cake the whole time.
I would be. It would be really hard
Mhm.
to start that relationship that way. Like if that's
Okay.
someone, like if I'm gonna spend my life with James,
Yeah.
then his parents are in my life the rest of my life as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would feel bad blindsiding them with something I know they're gonna care about,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's bad.
Mm.
I would feel worse about blindsiding them and then giving them the opportunity to say something ignorant and stupid that they're just not thinking is gonna hurt my feelings. Because whether it's James' parents, my parents, a stranger on the street, if you say something that offends me, like I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just who I am.
Has he met your parents?
He has met my parents, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I see why it's like, yeah, we could just hide it forever. Well, but we can't, because I'm not gonna do anything in my life like a cis woman does. Like my life will never look like a cis woman's life. I don't
Mhm.
want my life to look like a cis woman's life.
Does that mean children are out of the picture?
Oh yeah, I don't
or-
want kids.
Okay.
Okay. Unless we can find a way to
What, find a surrogate or something like that? Or what?
no, because I would want, like, the only way I'm raising a
Butt
baby is if
babies.
it's my baby.
If you have to. Gotcha.
Right. Like, yeah,
feel you
if
on
I
that.
had to. If I have a kid, I would adopt an older kid. I don't know.
We've talked about.
I'm a little worried about getting burnt out, as we've been on here for so long.
On the kid subject. We've talked about kids, and Josie and I both don't want kids. But growing up in the situations that we did, we think it would be really meaningful and impactful to be able to foster a kid who's like a teenager, who's queer or who's trans, that just needs a space to be able to be themselves for a
Mhm.
little bit, and that situation appeals to us a lot,
Okay.
much more so than having our own biological children or adopting a little baby from a third world communist country.
Good God.
I met plenty of kids that came over from like Vietnam, and
Yeah.
like a lot of them get adopted by white families and get raised in the Midwest. Like I went to college with a few of them folks.
I had a
so
lot of those people in my
yeah.
town.
Sadly, they don't.
Some of my
they
best friends were.
don't have any of that Asianness in them. They just their minds fucked to think that they're white. So it's really
It happens.
yeah.
White people,
But anyways,
white people do that.
yeah. Well, guys, we're running out of time here, so I think this brings us really to the end of the show. I know this is a really abrupt stop.
Yeah.
It's like full
My
break right
butt's sore.
here.
Yeah,
Walk around.
I know we've been talking for a minute here, but everybody, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please, 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 when you listen to our podcast, go on there, rate us 5 stars. That really helps everybody else find us. So
Don't be a
give us a
fucking
5-star ratings.
No
Yeah,
4-star guys.
no 4-star guys.
No,
Hey, see,
Trans
she's
girls
been
don't fuck
listening.
with trans girls don't fuck with no 4-star guys.
There you
None.
go.
0.
4-star guys are on the DL. They suck.
yes.
Nobody likes them. All right, that's the guy we kick out of the party.
Yes.
Be a 5-star guy, please, please, please. And then also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Facebook and YouTube, we do have some of our full episodes up, so you can get a really good sample of our show and listen to it anywhere else. If you're sitting at your work computer, you can listen to it in the background. But yeah,
Don't
that's
be
about
so
it. Thanks for joining us, Josie and James, and I'm really glad my guy Eric joined us.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. Sorry I was late to that, but
It's all good, man. I'm just glad you were here.
Yeah.
as
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
as
having us.
I think
as
it's a
always,
cool idea for
uh,
a show. I think it's a good market that needs support.
hey,
I hope
thanks.
this is
Glad to-
hope this has shed light and help some people and put some perspective on something that doesn't get a lot of attention.
Great.
There are trans girls for you to date. Woo!
Yay.
Yay.
That's great news for everybody. But hey, this has been Trans Talk for Men. As always, I've been Eric.
And I'm Chris.
See you guys.
Ladies.